The ambulance doors were closing when the old man suddenly grabbed the woman's hand. His eyes were barely open. His breathing was weak. And with the last bit of strength he had, he whispered something that made her heart stop. "Please, don't let them take me away alone." The woman, Nora Bennett had no idea who he was. She was only a tired single mother who had been working all day just to put food on the table for her 8-year-old daughter, Lily. But that afternoon, one decision would cost Nora her job and change her life forever. It all began on an ordinary Monday morning. Nora arrived at the city department store before the doors opened. Her shoes were worn, her uniform was slightly faded, and there were dark circles under her eyes. She had barely slept the night before. The rent was due soon. Lily needed new school shoes, and there was almost nothing left in the kitchen. Still, Nora smiled. She always did. Because whenever Lily asked, "Mom, are we going to be okay?" Nora never let her see the fear in her eyes. "We will be," she always answered. "I promise." Nora worked at the store as a cashier. It was not a glamorous job, but it paid the bills. Her managers expected perfection. Employees were not allowed to leave their stations without permission. Customers had to be served immediately. And management cared more about the store's image than almost anything else. Nora knew the rules. She also knew she could not afford to lose a job. That morning, the store was unusually busy. Managers were rushing around, checking displays and warning employees that an important businessman might visit the area. Everyone wanted to look perfect. Nora simply kept working. She greeted customers, helped an elderly woman carry her bags, and even gave up part of her break to help a new employee. Then, just after noon, a terrible scream came from outside. Nora looked toward the entrance. People were running toward the fountain. An elderly man had collapsed on the pavement. His head had hit the ground. For a few seconds, everyone simply stood there. Some people stared. Others pulled out their phones. Nobody moved. Then Nora saw the man struggling to breathe. She forgot about the store. She forgot about her manager. She forgot about the rules. She ran outside. "Call an ambulance," she shouted. Nora dropped beside the stranger and carefully supported his head. She remembered basic first aid training from years earlier and tried to keep him conscious. "Sir, stay with me," she whispered. "Help is coming." The man opened his eyes. His lips moved, but no words came out. Nora stayed beside him. Dust covered her uniform. Blood stained her sleeve. Her hands were shaking, but she refused to leave. Finally, the ambulance arrived. The paramedics rushed toward them. After checking the man, one of them looked at Nora and said, "You did the right thing. If you had waited even a few more minutes, this could have ended very differently." Nora watched the ambulance disappear down the street. She breathed out slowly. She thought the worst was over. She was wrong. The moment Nora stepped back inside the store, her manager was waiting. His expression was cold. "You left your register." Nora tried to explain. There was an emergency. That man could have died. Her manager pointed toward the office. "Come with me." Nora followed him, confused. A few minutes later, a sheet of paper was placed in front of her. Her hands went completely still. It was a termination letter. Nora stared at the paper, unable to believe what she was seeing. She had just saved a stranger's life, and now she had lost the only job supporting her daughter. But what Nora didn't know was that the elderly man she had rescued was not an ordinary stranger. And before that day was over, someone extremely powerful would discover exactly what she had done. Someone who would make sure the store regretted firing her. But first, he needed to find out who Nora Bennett really was. Nora walked out of the store with a small cardboard box in her hands. Inside were a few family photos, an old coffee mug, and a little paper drawing Lily had made for her. That was all she had left from the job she had spent years trying to protect. She stood outside for a moment, staring at the store through the glass doors. People were still shopping. Cars were still moving through the busy street. The world had not stopped. But Nora felt as if hers had. She wiped her eyes and headed toward the bus stop. She could not afford to break down. Not yet. She had a daughter waiting for her at home. That evening, Lily immediately noticed something was wrong. "Mom, why are you home so early?" Nora forced a smile. I just finished work a little early. Lily looked at the box in her hands. Then what is that? Nora looked down. For a moment, she could not speak. Finally, she sat beside her daughter and explained what had happened. Lily wrapped her arms around her mother. You saved someone, Mom. Nora smiled through her tears. I did. Then you did the right thing. Those simple words almost broke Nora's heart. Later that night, after Lily had fallen asleep, Nora sat alone at the kitchen table. She opened an old jar where she kept emergency money. There were only a few bills inside. She counted them twice. It would not be enough for rent. It would barely cover groceries. Nora closed her eyes. For the first time, she wondered if doing the right thing had been a mistake. Then she remembered the old man's frightened face. No. She would make the same choice again. She just wished doing the right thing did not always have to hurt so much. Meanwhile, across the city, the man Nora had rescued was lying in a private hospital room. His name was Walter Grant ***, and he was far more important than Nora could ever have imagined. Walter was the retired founder of one of the city's biggest construction companies. For decades, his name had appeared in newspapers, business magazines, and charity reports. Doctors had managed to stabilize him, but they told his family that the situation had been extremely serious. One doctor explained that getting help so quickly had probably prevented permanent damage. Walter listened quietly. Then he asked one question. The woman who helped me, where is she? His family exchanged confused looks. We don't know, his nurse replied. She left before we could get her information. Walter frowned. Find her. That same evening, his grandson, Ethan Grant ***, arrived at the hospital. Ethan was 34 and now ran the family business. He was known for being calm, intelligent, and extremely successful. But seeing his grandfather lying in a hospital bed shook him. Grandpa, what happened? Walter slowly told him everything he remembered. The fall, the crowd, and the young woman who stayed beside him when everyone else stood back. She saved me, Walter said. Ethan promised to find her. The next morning, his team began searching. They checked the shopping plaza's security cameras. And what they saw shocked him. The footage showed Walter collapsing. Dozens of people watched. Some stepped away. Some took out their phones. But one woman ran toward him. Nora. Ethan watched the footage again. Then he noticed something else. Minutes after Nora saved his grandfather, she walked back inside the store. And shortly afterward, she was fired. Ethan stared at the screen. You're telling me, he said quietly, this woman lost her job because she saved my grandfather. His assistant nodded. Ethan leaned back in his chair. For years, he had dealt with people who wanted something from his family. Money, connections, business deals, favors. But Nora had wanted nothing. She had not even known Walter's name. She had simply seen a man in danger and chosen to help. Ethan picked up his phone. Find her. His assistant hesitated. We already have her address. Ethan looked toward the hospital room where his grandfather was resting. Then let's go. But when Ethan finally found Nora the next day, he discovered something that made him realize saving her job would not be enough. Nora was walking from one failed job interview to another, and she had no idea that a black luxury car was quietly following her. Inside that car was the grandson of the man she had saved, and he was carrying an offer that could completely change her life. Nora had no idea that the black car behind her belonged to the family of the man she had saved. She was too busy thinking about the next interview. Another rejection. Another polite smile. Another employer asking whether she could work late nights. Nora could not. Lily needed her. She stopped near a small bus shelter and checked her phone. There was only one message. It was from her landlord. A reminder about the rent. Nora slowly lowered the phone. For a moment, she felt completely defeated. Then the black car stopped beside the sidewalk. The rear door opened. A well-dressed man stepped out. Nora Bennett. She looked at him carefully. Yes. My name is Ethan Grant. Nora immediately became nervous. Do I know you? Ethan smiled gently. No, but I know exactly what you did yesterday. Nora's expression changed. The old man. Yes. Ethan told her that Walter Grant was his grandfather. He explained that the doctors believed Nora's quick response had played a major role in saving his life. Nora shook her head. "I only did what anyone should have done." Ethan looked at her for a moment. Unfortunately, not everyone did. Nora did not know how to respond. Then Ethan said something she never expected. "My family would like to thank you." He offered her an envelope. Nora immediately stepped back. "No, thank you." Ethan looked surprised. "You don't even know what's inside." "I don't need to." Nora pointed toward the envelope. "I didn't help your grandfather because I wanted money." Ethan slowly put it away. "I understand." Nora expected him to leave. Instead, he asked, "Would you come to the hospital?" She hesitated. "My grandfather wants to meet you." Nora thought about it. Then she remembered the old man's hand holding hers as the ambulance arrived. "Okay." That afternoon, Nora took Lily with her. When they entered Walter's hospital room, the elderly man immediately recognized her. His tired face brightened. "You came." Nora smiled. "Of course." Walter reached for her hand. "I have been trying to thank you since I woke up." "You don't have to." "I do." His voice became emotional. "My doctors told me what could have happened if you had walked away." Nora looked down. "I couldn't leave you there." Walter noticed Lily standing beside her. "And who is this?" "My daughter." Lily stepped forward shyly. "I'm Lily." Walter smiled. "Well, Lily, your mother is a very brave woman." Lily looked at Nora proudly. "I know." For the first time in days, Nora laughed. But the emotional moment was interrupted when Walter asked a serious question. "Why were you fired?" Nora explained everything. Walter's expression hardened. He looked toward Ethan. "I want you to investigate that store." Ethan nodded. And what his team discovered over the next few days was disturbing. Nora was not the first employee punished for helping someone. Former workers described managers who ignored medical emergencies. Employees claimed they had been threatened with termination for speaking up. There were complaints that had never been properly investigated. Ethan read every report. Then he watched Nora's security footage again. One thought kept returning to him. The company had punished the only person who had done the right thing. Soon, the story reached the public. A customer had recorded part of the rescue on a phone. The video spread online. People saw Nora running toward Walter while everyone else stood frozen. Then they learned she had been fired afterward. The reaction was immediate. Thousands of people began asking the same question. How could a company fire someone for saving a life? The store's reputation began collapsing. Customers complained. Investors demanded answers. And suddenly, the same managers who had refused to listen to Nora were desperately trying to contact her. They offered apologies. They offered her job back. They promised to change the rules. But Nora had already learned an important lesson. Not every door deserves to be opened again. Then Ethan arrived at her apartment. He did not bring another apology. He brought an opportunity. "We have a foundation," he told her. "It helps families who are struggling." Nora listened quietly. "We need someone who understands those families," Ethan continued. Then he looked directly into her eyes. "We want you to lead it." Nora almost laughed. "Me?" "Yes. I have never run a foundation." Ethan smiled. "You don't need to know everything on day one." He paused. "But you know what it feels like to struggle. And you know what it means to help someone when nobody else does." Nora looked at Lily. For the first time since losing her job, she felt something she had almost forgotten. Hope. But accepting Ethan's offer would mean stepping into a world completely different from the one she knew. And Nora had no idea that her decision would soon put her face to face with the very people who had once thrown her out of their store. Nora stood inside the office of the foundation, staring at the name written across the glass door. For years, she had wondered how she would survive from one month to the next. Now, she had been given a chance to help people who were living the same struggle she once knew. It still felt impossible. Her new job was not easy. There were families who could not pay their rent, parents who had lost their jobs, mothers who had no one to watch their children while they worked. Nora understood them because she had once been one of them. She did not simply manage the foundation. She listened. She remembered names. She answered calls herself. And whenever someone told her, "I don't know what to do anymore," Nora gave them the same hope she had once given Lily. Start with one step. Then take another. Within a few months, the foundation began changing. More parents found jobs. Children received school supplies. Families received temporary financial help. And people who had almost given up began believing in themselves again. Ethan watched everything from a distance. He had expected Nora to work hard. He had not expected her to completely transform the organization. One evening, he visited her office. "You know," he said with a smile, "you were right." Nora looked confused. "About what?" "You never needed a reward for saving my grandfather." He paused. "But somehow, you turned that one act of kindness into hundreds of new chances for other people." Nora smiled. "I just know what it feels like to need someone." Meanwhile, the department store was facing a very different future. The investigation had exposed serious problems in its management. Employees who had been afraid to speak before were finally coming forward. The company was forced to review its emergency policies. Several managers were removed from their positions. And the store publicly apologized to Nora. One afternoon, Nora received a letter from the company's executives. They admitted that firing her had been wrong. They offered her old position back. Nora read the letter quietly. Then she folded it and placed it in a drawer. She had no anger left. She simply no longer needed that door to open. Her life had moved somewhere better. Walter also recovered. He returned home, stronger than his doctors had expected. He often visited the foundation. Sometimes he would sit with families and listen to their stories. He never forgot the woman who had refused to walk away from him. One day, he said to Nora, "When I fell that day, I thought my life was ending." Nora smiled. "And now?" Walter looked around the room. "Now I realize it was giving me another chance to see what truly matters." Nora looked at Lily, who was helping organize school supplies nearby. Her daughter was happier too. She no longer watched her mother count every dollar at the kitchen table. She saw her mother smiling again. Working with purpose. Helping people. Living without constant fear. And perhaps that was the greatest reward of all. Years later, people still talked about the day an ordinary cashier saved a wealthy businessman. But Nora never considered herself extraordinary. Whenever someone praised her, she always gave the same answer. "I saw someone who needed help. I helped him. That's all." But it was never just that. Her decision had changed Walter's life. Walter's gratitude had changed Nora's life. And Nora's new purpose had changed hundreds of other lives. Sometimes, kindness does not return in the same form in which we give it. You may help one person today and never know where that kindness travels tomorrow. You may think one small decision means nothing. But to someone else, it could mean everything. Nora once believed losing her job was the worst thing that could happen to her. She later realized it was the moment that pushed her toward a life she had never imagined. The door that closed behind her had hurt. But the door that opened afterward led to purpose, dignity, and hope. And all of it began with one simple choice. She chose to help when everyone else chose to watch. So, if this story touched your heart, don't just keep it to yourself. *** like this video, share it with someone who needs a little hope today, and tell us in the comments. Would you have stopped to help a stranger, even if it meant risking your own job? ***. And if you enjoy emotional stories about kindness, second chances, and unexpected blessings, ***, subscribe to the channel and turn on notifications ***. Because sometimes, the smallest act of kindness can become the beginning of someone's greatest chapter.